good. All right. I am currently recording. So
Cool.
I figured this would be pretty cool thing to do. You know, could just I'll share my screen and we can make fun of a PragerU video.
Love it. Let's do it.
So I think I have told you about PragerU before.
You actually haven't, and I kind of like
I've
that
not.
I get to see it for the very first time without any sort of precursors about what I'm about to view.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's actually more interesting. So I am not going to tell you anything about PragerU, and I'll let
Okay.
you form your own opinions on this. And I'm sure in the first 10 seconds you'll kind of basically get what it is.
Beautiful.
So here we go.
Boy. Okay, we're gonna find out what's going on.
Gonna find out what's going on. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Perfect. The purpose of public education: reading, writing, arithmetic. Indeed. Okay.
So far.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. I mean, yes, that is true, and that's a good thing, right? I mean, you kind of have to teach systemic racism.
Let me ask you, I don't hear any audio. Is there audio with this video, or is it
just
all...
you don't hear, there is audio. I don't know why you're not getting audio. Hold on.
Do your share sound. Click on the screen share.
Screen sharing.
If you go into advanced, there'll be a little button that says share computer sound.
Hold on. Oh, there it is. Yes. Got it. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay, never mind.
Right, I'll go back to the beginning because
yes.
I have a feeling there's really great underscoring I'm missing out on. Is that true?
Well, perhaps. Let's just have to see.
You know what's going on in your kid's school?
So far,
if
right
not,
now, all the stuff
now would be a good time to take a look. Here's what you're likely to find. According to the education establishment, the purpose of public education is no longer just to teach the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It is to awaken students to the fact that they live in a country that has been, remains, and will probably always be racist.
Okay.
Here's how the American Association of School Administrators, AASA, recently described its mission. At a time of obscene inequities, merely trying to compensate is not enough. AASA's work must go further and become actively anti-racist.
Okay, so I'm going to pause that there because I actually have watched this video before.
Okay. What was that guy's name again? Matt what?
Max Eden.
Max Eden. All right, I'm going to hold on to that because I feel like I'm going to want to Google this guy later. Or do I?
Oh, yeah, I'll
Max Eden.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to Google a couple of sources on media bias fact check just to show you.
Excellent.
Later, but
all right.
Right now, I mean, obviously this is true. I mean, in order to undo racism, you need to actively be anti-racist. I mean, if you're just not racist, then you're complicit in the systemic racism of the country. So
right, it is racist to believe that you are not part of the problem and don't have to do anything about it.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like just treating Black people equally is not enough at this point because we've set them so far back that we need to actually actively fight against. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a decent start, but
it'd be a decent start.
All right, hit me up. What's happening next?
Being anti-racist sounds simple and laudable. Treat everyone the same. A version of the golden rule. What could be wrong with that? Nothing. Except that's not what the educational elite means by anti-racism. Anti-racism, in its current formulation, does not mean equal treatment of others. It is an all-encompassing ideology that demands that white people accept that their behavior is either implicitly or explicitly racist, and has been for at least 400 years.
I'm going to pause there again. Sorry, I keep pausing it. I'd like to, space it out in chunks so we can analyze how ridiculous this video is.
Well, I mean, to begin with, like, it's ye implicitly racist, ye explicitly racist for 400 years. Well, yeah, I mean...
everyone was explicitly racist 400 years ago. Slavery existed.
Right. There was actually a division of labor among the races, one which was for people who get to keep things, and one for people who don't get to keep things. Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Beautiful.
Um,
Yes. All right, Max.
Yes, and I also would like to say
Educate me.
one more thing. He's like, that's not what the educational elite mean by anti-racist. It's like, no, that's what everybody means by anti-racist. This isn't like some elite 5 people, smartest people in the country created this term to destroy
Oh,
white people.
dude,
It's an
we're the
actual.
elite.
Oh,
Did
right,
you know
I'm the
that?
elite, of
We're
course.
a member of the elite.
We are absolutely. Mhm.
Ah, excellent. Okay, I can't wait to find out more.
The catch 22 here is that to say you're not racist only proves how racist you really are. That is, you are so racist you don't even know it. And if this accusation upsets you, that's proof of your white fragility. Education Week's Classroom Q&A blog tells teachers that, as Ibram X. Kendi, the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist would say, there is no not racist. There is only racist and anti-racist. Your silence favors the status quo and the violently oppressive harm it does to Black and brown folk everywhere.
So pause it there again.
I mean, I feel like that's a pretty solid thesis.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that thesis is it's perfect. I mean, it's like if we were to liken this to the American Revolution, and I mean that we shouldn't have to liken this to anything, to be honest, but like if we were to try to get people to understand, it's like, yeah, I don't like King George, but I kind of don't feel like revolting. It's like, well, you're not, then that defeats the whole purpose of,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like you
Yeah.
can't just not be racist. You need to.
There's work that has to happen between being raised in a society that tells you as a white person that you, because of who you are, you ought to have the advantages you have based on who you are. There's a lot of work that get from there to actually saying I'm willing to flip the entire system, which may not benefit me monetarily and may not benefit. You know what I mean? Like be able to say, like,
Yeah.
I'm willing to let go of some of the things that I have in order to make a world that's better for everybody. And I think that's what's like important. That it's an anti-racist society. A society that truly tackles racism is a better society for everybody, right?
Right.
It's a society where there is where there's a potential for less conflict, where there's potential for more working together. There's potential for um, broader courses of thought.
Mm.
But you have to be willing to say, um, I've I've been raised into a bubble that doesn't that keeps me separate from other people.
Right.
So yeah, you have to be anti-racist.
Yeah, for sure.
But Max Eden, he's
Max
got
Eden.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm. He's got some thoughts.
All right, let's find out how bad schools
Let's keep going. Let's see how bad this actually gets.
Mm-hmm.
What Kendi is saying is, if you don't voice active agreement with him, you are a racist. And if you treat people equally, regardless of race, you're also a racist. Anti-racists embrace race.
Max, I don't think that's what he's saying at all, actually.
Yeah, this is like the funniest part of this video to me because it's like, yeah, here's a quote, here's something completely different, but it's totally the same. That's what they're saying. It's like,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's like Max, I don't.
I don't think
I think what he's actually he doesn't think he's quite I think he's actually saying is that you can treat people well and still be a racist is what he's saying, which is true, right?
Yeah,
because
it
racism is a system. It's not just a personal preference.
Yes, exactly. It's not just like
Right.
a couple of bad apples that are racist. It's like, no,
Right.
the system itself is racist. It's not enough for you to not be racist because it doesn't
Right.
matter. Like you can treat people the same, but that's not gonna change the fact that Black people still have a large barrier in this country.
Right. I get to I can choose to have a diversity of people in my life, but that doesn't mean that within that pool of people, one of us will get frisked at the Walgreens and one won't.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with my personal choice of the kind of who I decide to reach out to and encompass and embrace in my life. Individually, it's what happens outside of that bubble.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Max.
Just can't comprehend that systemic racism exists.
His suit jacket fits nice,
Racial
though.
discrimination,
It does.
as long as it's done on their terms. As Kendi has said, the only remedy to racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination.
So I just wanted to stop that and say that, yeah, I mean, that's correct. I mean, that you do now, in order to combat the systemic racism now, you need to give a disproportionate amount of money to poorer and traditionally Black communities in order to raise them out of poverty.
Right. And to discriminate means to look at something analytically and be able to assess the various qualities of it. So it isn't always like discrimination means like I'm looking bad down on you, but rather I'm looking at this situation fully and wholly, and I'm making choices for based on that information. So yeah, we do have to discriminate. We have to look at what we've got, break it down, and decide what we need to change. Right.
Mhm.
That's what a discriminating person does.
Yep, exactly. Right.
I understand how wrong this might sound. It turns the Martin Luther King concept of racial equality on its head.
I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
they
know
sure love
what to say
bringing.
about that. This guy's just
They love. I mean, people just love bringing up Martin Luther King. Like they completely forgot like how many times he's gone to jail, how many times he was beaten by police, in order to get his any kind of message out at
yeah,
all. Like
yeah.
I
Honestly,
think it's like
if
he was just this really nice guy who got on a big stage a couple times and really inspired people, and not
yeah,
somebody who literally
that's
got like the living bejesus beaten out of him by
yep,
police in an attempt just to have the right to have a stage.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, Max.
yeah, he was fighting for like the most basic of human rights. Like at that point, it's like you're fighting for what's in front of you, right?
Yeah.
And that's what he was fighting. He was fighting for basic human rights, and he got that.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, Black people have basic human rights. That doesn't change the fact that the system is stacked against them. If Martin
Correct.
Luther King was alive now, I guarantee you he would agree with I don't remember the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist. He would 100% agree
Abraham
with
F.
him.
Kendi. Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
absolutely. No,
100%.
I think you framed that well. That it's like you fight for what's in front of you, right?
Yeah,
And it was yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Okay, next.
yes.
But that's exactly the point. Lorena Germain, who chairs the Committee on Anti-Racism for the National Council of the Teaching of English, makes this clear.
I just want to, I know this is something completely different, but it's actually not the teaching of English. It's the teachers of English. I know that's kind of a dumb throwaway thing, but they cited it wrong.
At the height of the recent urban unrest, Germain wrote that arsonists should serve as a model for teachers. Educators, what are you burning? Your white-centered curriculum? The school's racist policies? Your racist-ass principal? The funding for police and schools versus counselors? What are you burning? Germain's call to commit arson may have been metaphorical, but her call to get rid of the original school curriculum is not.
So,
Oh man, now he's just tiring me out.
we're only halfway through this video.
Now he just started tiring me out.
I mean,
Yeah, it's so funny. What's so weird about it is he's saying all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
yes, Max.
no shit.
Even taken out of context, yes, Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We do have to look at these. That's how, again, like if racism is a
Yes,
system, it's baked into our education as well.
it totally is. It absolutely is. Yeah, I mean, this guy is just. I mean, this is not as bad as it gets worse than this, to the point where
I'm
it
sure
gets
it
a
does.
little dog whistly, and
Yeah.
we'll just keep going.
A lesson
Right.
plan created by the New York City Culturally Responsive Education Working Group, Transforming Our Public Schools, a guide to culturally responsive and sustaining education, tells teachers that the whole Western canon is rife with horrible stories and atrocities of who we are as people of color. For their part, the National Committee on Social Studies has promised to flood our children with countermessages, until there is no racial inequality in economic opportunity, no racial inequality in education, no racial inequality in incarceration rates, and no brutality from police and others. If that sounds to you a lot more like political indoctrination than education,
Apparently, I'm trying to, stop racism is political indoctrination now.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, is
Everything
this
he
guy
just said.
seriously making the argument that it is not good to get rid of racial inequality?
Yeah, it
Like,
sounds
is that
like
what he's
that's
saying?
what he's saying. Sounds what he's saying, that the curriculum they're adopting, which attempts to equalize the language. I mean, really, when you talk about like counter messaging, we really are talking about like talking about people fully and wholly, like, and that's something that actually I won't even say that's true. I say white people aren't even talked about fully and wholly because we're always talked about as the leaders, the winners, the creators, the conquerors. Like that gets to be our story, and the story of the horrifying things that we do doesn't get told in the same way. And then and then this, he's like, and so yeah, we've got to like counter that. We've got to bring in other messaging,
Yeah.
So that's not this one-sided story of conquerors and leaders and educators and business people, and then this like quiet sort of like, and then there were these people who did the work. And we're going to give you a paragraph on that in the bottom of page 257 of your 7th grade text, and then we're not going to bring it up again.
Yeah. I mean, I went through U.S. history. We spent like an entire unit on the Salem witch trials in that time period, and we read a full-on book about it. We read the what's it called, Crucible, I think.
Yeah.
And we spent like 3 days on slavery and 2 days on the MLK and Malcolm X. Like we actually went through the entirety of civil rights in like 2 days, while we spent like 2 weeks on the witch trials. Like,
right.
So there absolutely is a misbalance in the educational system there.
Yep, for sure.
Wow. Yeah, anyway, let's keep going.
You would be right. New York State now encourages teachers to incorporate current events, even if they are controversial, into instruction, and to utilize tools that encourage students to engage with difficult topics, power, privilege, access, inequity, constructively. We might all wish that as cultural and political polarization reaches into more and more areas of American life, schools could remain an apolitical oasis where
I'm just gonna, and I know he's not even finished with that sentence, but I know it's coming, so I'm gonna stop it there.
There's no such thing as apolitical, right? Every time you put a subject in front of a child, you are teaching them an angle, you're teaching them a premise, you're teaching them a point of view. So the idea that you can somehow make things apolitical is, first of all, it's ridiculous, right? Yeah, because decisions have been made about what goes in those books, and it's all political.
100%.
It's like we shouldn't talk to our kids about racism. It's really it's controversial.
I mean, it's the same thing as like evangelical parents not wanting to have their kids go through sex education. It's like, okay, right. You realize you're promoting pedophilia by doing that, right? It's like
so weird.
It really is. I also like how he said that in a time of political polarization, as he is turning racism into a political thing, as if it's like there's an argument when it's a fact. Okay. Anyway, I'll just finish the rest of this video because it gets pretty dog whistly at the end here.
Okay.
Children can learn to read, write, and develop skills of socialization. But if that's what you want for your children, then just know that anti-racist educators think that you are part of the problem. According to a writer for Teaching Tolerance, a project of the Southern Poverty Law Center, anti-racist educators recognize that schools today are doing exactly what they were built to do in this country: exclude, silence, erase, promote white supremacy. An anti-racist approach to schooling could very well mean an ending to schools as we know them. That is certainly true. The National Council on the Teaching of English insists there is no apolitical classroom. The educational elite has a very clear lesson plan in mind for your children. If you're okay with it, you can send Johnny and Jennifer off to school with a glad heart. If you're not okay with it, better talk to the principal or get ready with a plan B. I'm Max Eden, Senior Fellow at the Manhattan Institute for Prager University.
So yeah, I don't know if you probably caught the dog whistle. Come up with a plan B. What plan B? What do you mean plan B?
That is crazy.
Right? I mean, like, it's complete bullcrap, the whole thing.
Yeah. He acts, yeah. It's so interesting to hear him like speak in a way that makes him seem like he's like so calm and so collected, and like ultimately it's like you don't want anything to change because the way things are right now are actually correct. The way you feel now, you think you're not racist and you are right. So anyone who tells you that that's not true is just trying to change, to make changes that are going to harm you. And like that's exactly what we're saying. Right?
Yeah.
Like people who don't want to acknowledge their racism are people who understand that if things change, it will affect them, and they don't want to be affected. They want everything to stay exactly the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. They want their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if Black people are actually equal to them, then they're somehow lesser, even though that makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is that video is promoting white supremacy, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know if you agree or not, but pushing this narrative that the educational elite is trying to misinform you and paint a narrative of racism that doesn't actually exist in America is, I mean, it's white supremacy.
Well, the funny thing, he doesn't even say that. He doesn't even say that this racism doesn't exist. He just says the feeling you have that you get when people say you are racist is correct. You should be angry about that. You should be upset about that. And those people who make you upset and angry are going into your schools now to tell your children that they are racist. And that should make you angry too. And that's like, he doesn't say that racism doesn't exist. He just says that we should be mad that we're talking about it.
Right, exactly.
That's all he really says.
Well, I mean,
that's mad that we're talking about it.
And that's the thing with these ultra conservative sites is that like they're super dog whistly. They don't explicitly say something, but they do everything in their power to make it so that it's easy for their idiot followers to connect the dots and make the inference.
Right.
So this guy, his name is Max Egan. He was actually from Manhattan Institute, and I was like, I've never heard of the Manhattan Institute. So I looked it up.
Yeah.
And this is what you get on their front page. And they say it's a leading free market think tank focusing on economic growth, education, energy and environment, healthcare, legal reform, public center race, and urban policy. But look at these things. I mean, used for new administration, our institutions were tested, they preserved. And there were a couple more that aren't here now that when I first looked it up that were much farther right than these ones. But just go here and I'll show you. I mean, this is what we're dealing with.
Right.
And this is the guy that, and they use people from the Manhattan Institute all the time. Like that's like one of their most common sources or most common places. That and the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's garbage.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, PragerU is actually even worse than that. I mean, they're lying to people. They're straight up lying to people in every single video. They just completely lie about stuff, make up definitions or change definitions to mean something that fits their narrative. It's ridiculous. It's like, well, how about we define, or like Ben Shapiro, if he talks about racism ever, he always is just like, well, how about we define what racist is? Because I really don't understand what racism actually means. So racism is, defining racism is a white person who thinks that Black people are inferior to them. Well, obviously I do not think that, so therefore I am not racist. It's like,
right, yeah.
But you can be racist without thinking that you're superior to another race. That's
Yeah, I
like
think we've
that's
come to think that race. If you're a racist, that means we think you're like a Klansman, and
yeah, exactly.
that's not.
It's like
And
you're
certainly those
setting
people
the bar.
exist, but that's not the bar.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
set the bar so high that it's
Hmm.
almost impossible to peg them with it, which is,
Hmm.
I mean, of course that's what they do. Because they know that they're racist and they just want to. I honestly I don't know. I really don't know.
No, they want to
It's
keep things the same as possible, and they also know that. Um, I mean, they're smart enough to know that there are people out there who go into a rage over this stuff, like Alex Jones, right? And they're also aware that they, in order to capture white rage, that you can't always um, be like a maniac. Like you have to present yourself in a way that feels like you're reasonable and logical and
mm,
uh, well rehearsed. And well sourced, so they sort of put on a really good show to make it seem like, oh, here's a reasonable person making reasonable arguments.
right.
But ultimately, it's the same garbage. They're just saying it again in a well-fitting jacket.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. And it reminds me a lot of Ben Shapiro again. I keep saying this,
Yeah.
but I mean, he's like a perfect example of it. I mean, obviously Alex Jones is a better example, but I mean, he's more of an example of the alt right, and Ben Shapiro is an example of the normal right, I guess.
Right.
Like
Yeah, I don't know a
he
lot about Ben Shapiro.
oh, I've seen quite a few videos of his just because when I was in high school, I had Republican friends who were like, "You should watch Ben Shapiro. He's got a lot of great arguments." And I watched him, and he's just he has no good arguments. I
Right.
mean, it's all literally lying.
Yeah.
Like somebody and the most funny part about this about Ben Shapiro, I find, is that like everybody considers him like young conservative wunderkind, and he's like 37 years old and only debates college kids.
Right.
It's like, bro, come on. You're
Yeah.
debating people who are like 20 years younger than you. Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to get out of this? Like, I watched one video that a socialist person came up to him. He was like, it basically asked about socialism, about labor controlled socialism,
Hmm.
which obviously is very different from the USSR. And Ben Shapiro immediately said, "Okay, well, first of all, I need to make sure. First of all, I need to make sure what you're actually talking about. Are you talking about state-run socialism? Because if that's the case, that's communism and it's the USSR, and therefore you're wrong." I'm like, you literally just misrepresented what he said and then lied about something else to make a
Right.
point that isn't even true. It's
Right.
like how do conservative people listen to this? Like, how do literally I can fact check all of the stuff these guys are saying in 2 seconds by Google searching it, and somehow, like, we're in an age of unprecedented information. Everybody can get their hands on any information they want. So it really bothers me that in this time of, where we're able to get any information we want in 2 seconds by searching it on Google, it hurts my brain that people are still not listening to that information.
Hmm.
It's like there are 50 studies that prove this, and you're just going to say, no, they're not true because I think it's wrong.
Right. We're also in a time of like an unprecedented lack of focus, right?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
people go to um, very few people have the patience to read it all, let alone read a full article,
That's a
right?
good
10
point.
minutes,
Yeah.
you'll see even a YouTube video, if it looks like it's longer than 3 minutes, a lot of people won't even watch it, right? It's too long. So so someone's going to be spoon fed something they already agree with, they're not going to have the patience or the wherewithal to follow up on it. That's not part of our like social, we're not socialized to do that anymore, to actually like read and follow up on things and research things. We just take what's easy and then walk away, and it's very easy, and what's easiest is what you already agree with.
That's true. Yeah. Confirmation bias is a huge issue in the US.
Huge. Yep.
Huge. Huge. Yeah. People
Well,
just
yeah.
go through YouTube and try to find someone who agrees with something they already thought, and then that'll it'll make them feel justified in saying, "Oh, hey, I'm not racist or I'm not bigoted or whatever
Hmm.
the thing is that day that they're accused of." Because I mean, they will be accused of it every day since they're Republicans.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. All I know is that I feel like the Republican Party has gone past um, just being conservative, and now they've hit the point of like borderline Nazism.
Well, they're trolling for likes, right? Like in
Yeah,
this
I mean,
weird social media world, it's not about the long game anymore. It's the short game. It really is about the likes, the hits, the views, that instant gratification, whatever gets you in today's news cycle. There's no, I don't think there's a any sort of long game at all. It's like, how do I get people to like me today? It's a very different
right,
world than it was years ago, where the news was slower and it only came on a couple times a day, and it had sort of it had sort of a build and an unfolding to it
right, yeah,
that isn't you don't see now. Everything is so immediate. So yeah, politicians troll for likes, and who's going to give them the most instant gratification to get them in the news cycle? It's the people who are angry and the people who are upset, and the people who are afraid. And you get them through crap like this.
that's
That's how you
true.
get
Yeah,
them.
I mean, if that were the case, I think that you could also say that that boils down to corporate greed at the end of the day again.
Yeah,
Because I mean, they want that instant gratification, they want those likes, they want that. I mean, you can make money being an influencer, so
correct.
I mean, they have
Yeah,
that along with other other big business that are giving them grants to do whatever. I mean, like if you just
mhm.
look at the
Yeah.
PragerU thing
Yeah.
up
I mean,
here.
they have like they take donations, don't they? Did I see that somewhere? Like you can like, yeah,
Yeah,
donate to
yeah.
help
Donate to help PragerU
PragerU.
fight censorship.
Right. So if they can get you really upset by this video and you've got a click link right there, it's like again that instant gratification. You got a
Right,
view, and you get and people are giving you money.
right, exactly. And it's like this is help PragerU fight censorship, and it's like how does giving them money help them with
Mm,
that? Like, what are they going to
right.
do with that? They're just going to keep it. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just going to keep it. And I love that they said the YouTube currently lists over 200 PragerU videos under restricted mode. It's like, yeah, you know why? It's because it's misinformation and you're falsely shaping the minds of impressionable children
Yeah.
into your bullcrap. Obviously, they're going to restrict that to
Yeah.
not children because it's literally not true. You're spreading misinformation to try to paint a false narrative of this country.
Hmm. Well, it's also
I
it's been
mean,
10 days. This thing has been up, and they've already raised 32 grand. Oh, they're due.
oh no,
So
they've been doing this since Trump got banned, or for a while actually.
oh, have they? I
If
thought
I
that
go
was
to
just since
their
this video went up.
no, there are a lot of when I went to the video tab, there are a lot of. I mean, look at all these that are labeled fundraiser.
Wow, that's crazy. So every wow.
Almost every single one, and I don't think they make money off of ads on this, which I guess that itself is a good thing.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know how
but
that works.
I
I
mean,
was
I just hate how these guys are trying to paint themselves like they're. First of all, they're not even an actual university.
right.
These guys, look at how many views they have. Over a billion views. Over
Yeah.
a like
You have
that's
almost 3 million subscribers. I mean, that says a lot, right?
yeah. That says a lot about our country. I think it says a lot about conservatism, extreme conservatism versus extreme liberalism in general. Because
Hmm.
if I go to, and this is pretty, I'll go to another. This is that's not how you spell that. This is a ultra liberal socialist guy that I like a
Hmm.
lot. And he only has like 329,000 subscribers, and everything he says is based off of facts and um, data. He
Hmm.
has 191 million views in total. So that I mean, I don't know. I think that just kind of shows how deep into the brainworms
Yeah.
conservatives are. Um,
Yeah. Well, the thing with I don't know if it's certainly extremes are different, but I always feel like the conservative view is that I'm right. I know I'm right, and I'm going to prove I'm right. And I feel like most liberals are like, but what if I'm wrong? But what if I'm wrong? But what if there's more to this? right?
Yeah, it's like liberals will actually listen to the other side, while conservatives are just like, nope, Antifa, get out.
No, we're so busy like trying to like figure out how we could possibly be wrong about something so that we can be better. And
yeah.
and that has its own issues. While conservatives are like, no, I mean, I'm right.
Yeah. It's like, I'm right. Okay, well, what about all this data and studies? Like, nope, I'm right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So funny.
anyway,
All right, kiddo, I gotta run. Thanks for
yes,
showing me this guy, and thanks for talking to me about all this stuff. It's like
absolutely.
it's good to
Thanks
have
for coming
good to have
on.
conversations about this important stuff, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for I really appreciate that. I'll